This report will analyze the Australia exchange rate against the American dollar. The content of this report will be as follows. First, the report will provide a brief history of the exchange rate regime of the Australian currency, describing various changes that have taken place. Secondly, the report will represent the monthly exchange rate data of the Australian dollar against the American dollar. Finally, the report will describe the three economic variables that impact the rate of exchange. The history of the Australian dollar exchange rate system over the past few decades. Australia's exchange rate policy has undergone different institutional changes before it was finally floated in 1983. The Australian dollar has been pegged to sterling since 1932. In early 1971, the Australian currency was officially pegged to the US dollar. From 1932 to the early 1970s, Australia's pegs was part of a system of fixed exchange rates. However, the system collapsed in 1970s. With the result that major advanced economies such as the US floated their exchange rates. Australia, however, has not followed suit, but since the late 1970s, the Australian dollar has become more flexible globally. The decision to pick the Australian dollar against the TWI was made in 1974, and the peg was later changed from hard currency to crawling currency in 1976. The Australian dollar was floating in 1983 due to the difficulty of controlling the currency supply under a fixed or pegged exchange rate system. In the 1983, due to the difficulty of controlling the currency supply under a fixed or pegged exchange rate system. In the meantime, Australia, like other countries, has focused on growth. Finally, since 1983, the Australian economy has been under a floating exchange rate regime. Analysis: the Australian dollar and the American dollar (USD) is among the most commonly traded currency pairs across the globe. The USD to USD rates usually indicated in real-time price. This data represents the monthly rate of exchange for AUD to USD for period starting from December 31, 2009 to December 31, 2019. But by calculating the mean and the standard deviation of the monthly rate of exchange rates across the 10 years, the result obtained as follows. The mean exchange rate is 0.85588 and the standard deviation is 0.12935. Besides on the data, the histogram of the monthly exchange rate is represented in the figure below. The histogram represents the change in the exchange rate. The monthly exchange rate appears to be approximately normally distributed. Besides on the histogram information, some months experienced an extreme increase and decrease. The 95 confidence interval for the exchange rate between USD and Australian dollar is between 0.835 and 0.8792. That means that we are 95% confident that the rate of exchange between the two currencies would fall between the value listed above.
This section will address three main economic variables that impact the rate of exchange. Inflation affects the currency value of a country. Typically, the low inflation rate is characterized with a rising currency value. This is because the purchasing power of one currency tends to increase relative to the other currency. Conversely, higher inflation results in the depreciation of currency value. And in terms of interest rate, an increase in interest rate of a given country will result in an appreciation of its currency. This is because when leaders are offered a higher rate, more foreign capital will be attracted. The result will cause a rise in the value of a given currency. In addition, the rate of interest can also be used to forecast the exchange rate. This is achieved by evaluating the investment flow. Balance of payment account deficit is the last variable. The BOP measures the net inflow and outflow of foreign currencies. In a country, a deficit in the current occurs when the value of imports is more than the value of export. This deficit is mainly as a result of spending more on foreign goods and services than what the country is earning in return. On most occasions, countries choose to borrow from foreign countries to make up the deficit. Absence of capital inflow to finance the account deficit leads to depreciation in a currency. Thanks.